Hey TechKnowStuds, and when I say studs, I mean both students, and you are awesome. Thanks for joining me in these videos. In this module, we're going to be talking about quality of service, or QoS. There are certain traffic that's more sensitive than other traffic across our network. And when contention happens, we want to make sure that only certain traffic gets dropped, and we want to prioritize other traffic. That all has to do with quality of service. So in this module, let's go over what quality of service is and how you can implement it on your networks. When it comes to our networks, there are certain key elements that we want to make sure exists. So first of all, we want to make sure that it's highly available. What that means is that when a user wants to utilize the services, it's not down, it's available to use. Along with that same concept, we also want it to perform well, because a poor performing service, a poor performing network will cause as much frustration as the availability of the network. We also want to make sure there's a certain amount of security that's involved, and also that whatever we're creating is manageable. Well, one of these, the performance, has to deal with quality of service. We want to make sure performance is tuned correctly for the different services that we're providing. As an example, if we've got a phone that's here, it's much more sensitive to dropped packets than some of your other devices. So we want to make sure that the phone system, the packets for the phones are actually getting prioritized. And that has to do with quality of service. In this module, we'll start out by talking about network quality. What is the measurements? How are we going to measure network quality? And what is the standards for network quality? Then we're going to get into a few different strategies, a couple strategies that you can use to implement quality of service. We'll talk about some quality service tools or categories of how you would implement this. And those are, we would have some sort of classification, classifying our traffic that's going across our network. Then we possibly might mark that traffic so we can consistently implement QoS. We are going to get a little more in depth into marking when we're going to talk about the bits and the DSCP. Then we'll get into congestion avoidance and a tool that can help make sure that we mitigate any big problems that are on our network. And then we'll talk about queuing algorithms. And then we'll finish this off by talking about traffic shaping and policing. One thing to note about this module is that we don't have any demos. For the CCNA, you don't actually have to implement any kind of quality of service, but you do need to know the concepts. So that's what we're going to be covering in this, is we're going to be covering the concepts when it comes to QoS.